Chosen one, listen to me carefully. What I am about to share is not for everyone. This message is urgent, and it is only meant for those who are truly walking the divine path of God. If you are not serious about your spiritual calling, if you are not aligned with God's will, this video will not resonate with you, and you will naturally leave. But if you are still here, it is because God Himself allowed this message to reach you at the exact right moment in your life. Not early, not late. Perfect timing. Today, God wants you to know this clearly. Your power has skyrocketed 999 times under His favor. You are not the same person you were before. Heaven has upgraded you, strengthened you, and positioned you quietly while others were distracted. This message will shift how you see yourself, your struggles, and your future. If you stay until the end, you will receive clarity, peace, and confirmation that many have been praying for. Before we continue, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones so they don't miss this divine confirmation. And comment 999 in the comments to declare that you are aligned with God's favor and ready for the elevation He has prepared for you.
Divine timing and why this message found you now. Chosen one, let me calm your mind first. Take a breath. You are not behind. You are not late. And you have not missed anything God prepared for you. What you are experiencing right now is divine timing, not confusion. Humans rush. God does not. And those who are chosen often feel delayed because they are being protected, not denied. This message did not reach you randomly. You didn't just stumble upon this video. God arranged this moment because your spirit was ready to hear it now. Not months ago, not years from now. Now. If you had received this message earlier, you would have misunderstood it. If it came later, you might have lost hope. So God waited until your heart, mind, and spirit were aligned enough to receive truth without fear. Many chosen ones struggle with one quiet question: why did my life feel so slow while others moved ahead? And I will answer you honestly. God never rushes His vessels. He prepares them. While others were building visibility, God was building depth in you. While others were chasing applause, God was teaching you discernment. And while others were distracted, God was strengthening your inner foundation. Divine timing often feels uncomfortable because it stretches patience. It removes control. It forces trust. That is why chosen ones feel pressure that others do not understand. You were never meant to move at the world's pace. You were meant to move at God's pace, and God's pace always looks slow until the moment it suddenly makes sense. Let me tell you something important. Confusion is not always the sign that you are lost. Sometimes confusion means you are standing between two versions of yourself. The old one God is done with, and the new one He is preparing to reveal. That space in between feels heavy, it feels silent, it feels lonely, but it is holy. God often speaks the loudest in seasons where everything else goes quiet. That is why you may have felt isolated lately. Less desire for noise, less tolerance for shallow conversations, less interest in proving yourself. That is not depression, that is alignment. God is pulling your attention inward so He can strengthen you without distraction. You see, chosen ones are not prepared publicly. They are prepared privately. God hides you while He sharpens you. And during that hidden season, many start doubting themselves. They question their purpose. They question their calling. Some even question God. And God allows it because real faith is not built on constant reassurance. It is built on trust when reassurance is absent. If you've been feeling like nothing is happening, let me correct that thought gently but firmly. Everything is happening, just not where the world can see it yet. Heaven has been working overtime on your behalf. Doors you didn't even knock on were closed for your protection. Connections that looked promising were removed because they would have drained your future. and delays that frustrated you were saving you from regret. This is why this message feels personal, because it is. God knows when His chosen ones are emotionally tired. He knows when you're holding it together on the outside but carrying silent questions inside. He knows when you're still faithful but a little weary, and He never ignores that. Divine timing also explains why you survived things that should have broken you. If you had received your elevation before that pain, it would have crushed you. Power without maturity destroys. Favor without wisdom confuses. So God allowed the process. He allowed the waiting. He allowed the refining. Chosen one, hear this clearly. The waiting season was not empty. It was intentional. God was teaching you patience so you wouldn't misuse authority. He was teaching you empathy so you wouldn't become cold. He was teaching you restraint so you wouldn't react emotionally once power increased. That is why when others panic, you remain calm. When others chase validation, you feel indifferent. When others argue, you withdraw. That is growth. That is divine discipline. That is evidence of timing. This message found you now because you are emotionally strong enough to handle what is coming. You are spiritually mature enough to stay grounded, and you are mentally prepared enough to not let power turn into pride. God does not elevate unstable minds. He elevates steady hearts. So stop asking, why now? And start understanding, why not now? You've prayed, you've endured, you've healed, you've learned. And now your spirit recognizes truth without needing proof. This is the moment where confusion starts turning into clarity, where exhaustion turns into quiet confidence, where fear turns into trust. You didn't miss your moment. You were being prepared for it. And that preparation is exactly why your power has increased the way it has. What your power has skyrocketed 999 times truly means spiritually. Chosen one, I need you to listen to this part slowly. Do not rush it. Because when God says your power has increased, He is not talking about ego, control, or dominance. God does not empower the flesh. He empowers the spirit. And the power you carry now is quiet, refined, and deeply rooted. When I say your power has skyrocketed 999 times, I'm speaking about completion and transformation. The number 999 represents the closing of an old cycle and the readiness to step into a higher spiritual assignment. You are no longer operating from survival. You are operating from authority, not loud authority, calm authority, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything. Before, you reacted emotionally. Now, you observe. Before, you chased explanations. Now, you trust discernment. Before, you felt the need to defend yourself. Now, silence speaks for you. That is power. And most people don't recognize it because they think power looks aggressive. God's power looks grounded. Your power has increased in how you handle pressure. Things that used to shake you no longer do. Situations that once drained you emotionally now feel manageable. That didn't happen overnight. That came from endurance. That came from prayer without applause. That came from trusting God when answers were delayed. Another form of power God has given you is discernment. You see intentions before words are spoken. You feel energy before actions unfold. You sense when something is off, even when it looks good on the surface. That is not imagination. That is spiritual sensitivity sharpened through experience. God trained you to see beyond appearances because your assignment requires wisdom. Your power has also increased in restraint, and this is where many misunderstand spiritual growth. You no longer argue like before. You no longer feel the need to explain your truth to everyone. You no longer waste energy proving your worth. That is not weakness. That is mastery. Only those who are unsure of themselves fight for validation. Those who are grounded let God speak through outcomes. The world celebrates loud confidence. God develops quiet certainty, and that quiet certainty is what now surrounds you. People may not understand why your presence feels different, why conversations shift when you enter, why some feel comforted while others feel exposed. That is not arrogance. That is spiritual authority resting on you. Let me say something important. Your power increased because your heart softened, not hardened. You became less reactive and more compassionate. You understand pain without becoming bitter. You learned empathy without losing boundaries. That balance is rare, and God does not give it lightly. There was a time when you wanted to be seen. Now you want to be aligned. There was a time when you wanted answers immediately. Now you trust timing. There was a time when rejection hurt deeply. Now you understand protection. That shift is the evidence of multiplied power. The reason God multiplied your power instead of displaying it publicly is because public power attracts ego. Hidden power attracts obedience, and obedience is what sustains favor. God knows you are not here to impress people. You are here to fulfill purpose. Chosen one, this new level of power also means you carry peace into chaos. You don't absorb negativity like before. You sense it, acknowledge it, and let it pass. You no longer internalize everything. That emotional discipline is spiritual strength. Do not underestimate this season just because it feels calm. Calm is not stagnation. Calm is control. Calm is maturity. Calm is readiness. Storms are loud. Authority is steady. Your power skyrocketed not because you demanded it, but because you survived what tried to break you without losing your faith. You didn't come out perfect, you came out aware. And awareness is the foundation of true spiritual authority. God didn't make you louder. He made you deeper. And depth always outweighs noise. Let me add this final layer so you fully understand what God has done within you. Your power has also increased in spiritual influence, even when you are silent. You don't have to speak much anymore for people to feel something shift around you. Some feel peace, some feel conviction, some feel uncomfortable. That reaction is not because of your personality, it is because truth carries weight. Light exposes without effort, and when God increases your power, He allows your very presence to become a message. You may have noticed that certain people no longer resonate with you. Conversations feel shallow. Energy feels draining faster than before. That is not pride growing in you. That is discernment protecting you. God elevated your awareness so you would stop pouring into places that cannot receive what you carry. Not everyone deserves access to your energy at this level. Your power has also multiplied in spiritual endurance. You no longer collapse under pressure the way you once did. You may feel tired, but you do not quit. You feel emotions, but you do not lose direction. That balance comes from internal stability, and internal stability is one of the greatest signs of God's favor. Another thing many chosen ones don't realize is this. Increased power comes with increased self-control. You now pause before responding. You pray before reacting. You reflect before deciding. That discipline was learned through failure, correction, and humility. God trusted you with more power because you learned to submit your emotions instead of being ruled by them. And finally, your power has increased in alignment with truth. You can no longer live out of character just to fit in. You feel uncomfortable compromising your values. Even small misalignments disturb your peace. That is the Holy Spirit refining you, not condemning you. God is not restricting you. He is protecting your calling. Chosen one, this is what spiritual power truly looks like. Not force, not noise, not dominance, but clarity, stability, restraint, and peace that cannot be shaken. Signs: God's favor is actively resting on you. Chosen one, God's favor does not always announce itself with applause. Most of the time, it reveals itself quietly, gently, in ways only the spiritually attentive can recognize. That is why some people miss it, while others feel it deeply. And if you are listening to this and something inside you feels calm, affirmed, or strangely understood, that is not coincidence. That is recognition. One of the clearest signs God's favor is resting on you is unexplainable peace. Not because life is easy, but because chaos no longer controls you. Situations that once caused anxiety now feel manageable. Problems still exist, but they no longer own your emotions. That peace did not come from comfort. It came from trust. God gives that kind of peace only to those who have learned to surrender control. Another sign is divine protection, especially in moments you didn't even realize you needed it. Think back. There were situations that could have destroyed you, decisions that could have ruined your future, relationships that looked promising but fell apart unexpectedly. At the time, it felt painful. Now you see it differently. God was intervening. Favor doesn't always give you what you want. Sometimes it removes what would have harmed you later. You may also notice people reacting strangely to you. Some are drawn to you without knowing why. Others feel uncomfortable around you for no clear reason. This is not your imagination. God's favor carries light, and light exposes. Those aligned with truth feel safe. Those hiding behind masks feel exposed. That reaction says nothing about you and everything about where they are spiritually. Another powerful sign is detachment. You no longer cling to people, outcomes, or validation. You still care, but you don't chase. You still love, but you don't beg. That emotional independence is not coldness, it is maturity. God removes emotional dependency from His chosen ones so they don't confuse people with purpose. God's favor also shows up as clarity after confusion. Seasons that once felt heavy now make sense. You begin to understand why certain things had to happen the way they did, why doors closed, why silence lasted longer than expected. Favor brings understanding, not just blessings, and understanding brings peace. You may have noticed that your intuition has sharpened. You sense when something is off. You feel warnings before events unfold. You recognize truth without needing long explanations. That is discernment, and it is a gift from God. He sharpens it in those He trusts. Another sign is rejection increasing before elevation. This one confuses many chosen ones. As God's favor intensifies, some people fall away. Not because you did something wrong, but because they can no longer access you the same way. Favor raises your standard, and not everyone can rise with you. You may also feel a deeper responsibility for your inner world. You guard your thoughts more carefully. You avoid negativity. You protect your peace intentionally. That is not fear. That is wisdom. God teaches His chosen ones that what you allow inside determines what you carry outward. Finally, one of the strongest signs of God's favor is this: you are still standing with faith intact. After everything you've faced, you didn't turn bitter. You didn't lose belief. You didn't harden your heart. You grew wiser, not colder, stronger, not crueler. That alone is evidence of divine favor resting on your life. Chosen one, favor is not always visible to others, but it is deeply felt by those who carry it. And if these signs resonate with you, it's because God's hand has been on you longer than you realize. Let me take this deeper, because some of you need confirmation at a level beyond surface understanding. Another quiet but powerful sign of God's favor is that you no longer feel the need to rush. There was a time when waiting made you anxious. Now, waiting feels purposeful. You trust that what is meant for you will not miss you. That calm patience did not come from comfort. It came from knowing God has already gone ahead of you. Favor teaches you to rest without guilt. You may also notice that your prayers have changed. You no longer beg the way you used to. Your prayers are calmer, clearer, and more intentional. You pray for alignment, wisdom, and peace more than you pray for quick results. That shift shows spiritual maturity. God draws closer to those who seek His will, not just His hand. Another sign is increased sensitivity to truth. Things that once entertained you now feel empty. Certain conversations feel draining. Certain environments disturb your peace. This is not you becoming judgmental. This is your spirit rejecting what no longer aligns. Favor refines your taste for what feeds your soul. God's favor also reveals itself through unexpected strength during emotional moments. You still feel pain, but you don't collapse under it. You process emotions without being consumed by them. You recover faster. That emotional resilience is not natural, it is spiritual reinforcement. You may also notice that your solitude has become meaningful. You no longer fear being alone. In fact, you find clarity, restoration, and insight in quiet moments. God often meets his chosen ones in solitude because that is where distractions fall away and truth rises. Another overlooked sign is divine redirection. Plans you were once sure about no longer feel right. Paths you were excited about now feel heavy. And new directions, though uncertain, feel peaceful. Favor often changes your desires before it changes your circumstances. And let me say this clearly. Favor does not mean you will be understood. It means you will be guided. Some people will misunderstand your silence, your distance, your growth. Let them. God did not choose you to be explained. He chose you to be aligned. Chosen one, if you are experiencing these shifts, it is not because you are losing yourself. It is because God is revealing who you truly are under his favor. Inner healing. Why God increased your power through pain. Chosen one, this is the part many people avoid, but I will not soften it for comfort. God did not increase your power in spite of your pain. He increased it through your pain. And once you understand this, you will stop questioning your past and start respecting what it produced in you. Pain was not sent to destroy you. It was allowed to shape you. God knew that without depth, power would make you reckless. Without empathy, authority would make you harsh. So, he allowed experiences that broke your illusions, not your spirit. Every disappointment you survived stripped something false from you and revealed something true. There were seasons where you felt emotionally alone, even when people were around you. That isolation was not abandonment, it was refinement. God removed noise so you could hear him clearly. He removed distractions so you could confront parts of yourself you kept avoiding. Healing cannot happen in denial. It happens in honesty. Think about how you handle pain now compared to before. You don't explode, you don't run, you don't numb yourself the same way. You sit with it, you process it, you learn from it. That emotional maturity was earned, not gifted. And God only trusts power to those who have learned how to suffer without becoming destructive. One of the deepest healings God did in you was teaching you discernment through disappointment. You were betrayed, misunderstood, and overlooked. Not because you deserved it, but because God needed you to see people clearly. Blind trust would have endangered your future. Pain sharpened your vision. You also learned how to love without losing yourself. That lesson cost you something. You gave more than you received. You stayed when you should have left, and when you finally walked away, it wasn't out of anger, it was out of clarity. That clarity is healing, and healing is power. God also healed your need for approval. There was a time when being seen mattered deeply to you. Rejection hurt because your identity was tied to acceptance. Pain broke that dependency. Now, your worth comes from alignment, not applause. That is a dangerous level of freedom for someone who carries purpose. Let me say this gently but truthfully. Some wounds were allowed because they would later become wisdom. Some tears watered your calling. Some heartbreaks trained your heart to remain soft without being weak. God did not waste a single moment of your suffering. And here is what many don't understand. Healing doesn't erase the memory. It changes the meaning. You remember, but you are no longer ruled by it. You can speak about your past without reopening the wound. That is proof of healing. Chosen one, your pain did not reduce you. It refined you. It didn't disqualify you. It prepared you. And that is why your power increased. Because power that has been healed does not harm. It heals others. Let me go deeper here. because this is where real transformation took place in you, even when you didn't realize it. There were moments when you questioned God quietly. You didn't lose faith, but you wondered why obedience still came with pain. Why doing the right thing didn't protect you from being hurt. Why being sincere attracted misunderstanding. Those questions did not offend God. They revealed your humanity. And God does not reject honest hearts. He heals them. One of the most painful lessons you learned was that not everyone who walks with you is meant to walk with you forever. That realization hurt because you are loyal by nature. You give deeply. You believe deeply. And when others fail to meet you at that level, it felt personal. But God used that pain to teach you boundaries, not walls, boundaries. There is a difference. Walls are built out of fear. Boundaries are built out of wisdom. You also healed from the illusion that love requires self-sacrifice to the point of self-erasure. You learned that God never asked you to disappear for anyone. You can be kind without being consumed. You can serve without being drained. You can love without losing your voice. That healing restored your sense of self, and restoring self is restoring power. There were nights when you carried emotional weight alone. You didn't speak about it because you didn't want to burden anyone. You learned how to self-regulate. You learned how to pray silently. You learned how to cry and still wake up faithful. That inner strength didn't come from pretending you were okay. It came from facing reality without bitterness. Another deep healing God did was breaking your attachment to outcomes. You used to measure success by results, by response, by recognition. Pain taught you that obedience does not always produce immediate reward. Sometimes it produces character, and character sustains purpose long after excitement fades. God also healed your relationship with silence. Silence used to feel like rejection, like abandonment, like God wasn't listening. Now silence feels instructive. You listen more, you reflect more, you rush less. That is healing. Only those who are internally safe can sit in silence without anxiety. Let me talk about something few people acknowledge. You healed from spiritual exhaustion, from doing everything right and still feeling empty, from giving spiritually while not being poured into. God allowed that fatigue so you would learn that even chosen ones must rest. That lesson saved you from burnout later. Healing sometimes looks like slowing down, not pushing harder. You also healed from self-blame. There was a season where you took responsibility for things that were never yours to carry. You internalized other people's failures. You questioned your worth. Pain exposed that pattern. Healing replaced it with truth. You learned to release guilt that didn't belong to you. And through all of this, God was not distant. He was present in ways you didn't recognize at the time, in the strength that kept you standing, in the conviction that kept you from quitting, in the quiet hope that returned even after disappointment. Healing is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle. Sometimes it is gradual. Sometimes it is only visible in hindsight. Here is the most important part. Healing changed how you use power. Unhealed power seeks control. Healed power seeks alignment. Unhealed power reacts. Healed power responds. Unhealed power proves. Healed power knows. God healed you so your influence would bring peace, not pressure. That is why you are calmer now. Why your voice carries weight without force. Why you don't feel the need to convince anyone of who you are. Healing gave you self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of spiritual authority. Chosen one, your pain was not a detour. It was a training ground. It taught you humility without insecurity, strength without hardness, confidence without arrogance. And because of that, God trusted you with more. Your power increased because your heart healed. And a healed heart guided by God is one of the most powerful forces there is. Authority, responsibility, and walking carefully with power. Chosen one, when God increases your power, He also increases your responsibility. Power is not given to impress, it is given to steward. And this is where many fail. but I believe you are being trained to succeed quietly. True spiritual authority is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not dominate conversations or demand recognition. Authority rests. It watches. It discerns. When you walk with God-given power, you learn that not every battle requires a response. Not every challenge deserves your energy. Wisdom teaches you when to act and when to remain still. One of the first responsibilities of power is restraint. You now see more, understand more, and sense more than before. That does not mean you correct everyone. It means you choose peace over proving a point. Silence has become one of your greatest tools. Not because you are afraid to speak, but because you know when speaking would disturb alignment. God also teaches his chosen ones that power must be paired with humility. Humility is not self-doubt. It is clarity about where your strength comes from. You no longer attribute growth to your own effort alone. You recognize God's hand in your endurance, your healing, and your wisdom. That recognition keeps you grounded. Another responsibility that comes with power is emotional discipline. You no longer allow emotions to drive decisions. You feel deeply, but you do not react impulsively. That discipline protects your future. Many doors are lost because people respond emotionally instead of strategically. God trained you to pause so you wouldn't sabotage what he prepared. With increased power also comes increased discernment about people. You are more selective now. You observe patterns instead of promises. You listen to behavior more than words. This is not distrust. It is wisdom. God does not expose his chosen ones repeatedly to unnecessary harm. You may also notice that God calls you to walk away from situations you once would have fought to fix. Power does not mean you stay everywhere you are needed. It means you stay where you are assigned. Overextending yourself drains your authority. God teaches you to say no without guilt. Let me say something that may challenge you. Power will attract both admiration and opposition. Some will be inspired by your growth. Others will feel threatened. Your responsibility is not to change their perception. It is to remain aligned. God did not elevate you to be liked. He elevated you to be effective. Another important responsibility is guarding your inner life. What you allow into your thoughts, emotions, and spirit matters now more than ever. Power flows from inner stability. Chaos within weakens authority outward. That is why God draws you toward quiet, prayer, and reflection. Chosen one, walking carefully with power does not mean walking in fear. It means walking in awareness. You are no longer careless with your words, your energy, or your time. You understand that everything you carry has weight now. God trusted you with increased power because he saw your heart. He saw your restraint. He saw your obedience when no one was watching. And that is why this season requires wisdom, patience, and humility. Power that is guided by God does not destroy, it restores. And you were not empowered to dominate. You were empowered to lead by example, quietly, steadily, and with grace. Let me add this final instruction because it will protect you as you walk forward. Another responsibility that comes with power is learning when not to engage. Not every invitation is meant for you. Not every argument deserves your response. God is teaching you selective involvement. Your peace is now more valuable than being understood. When you engage in everything, you dilute your authority. When you choose carefully, your presence carries weight. You may feel a stronger inner conviction guiding your decisions. Sometimes it will pull you away from environments that once felt familiar. Trust that guidance. Power increases sensitivity. What once felt normal may now feel heavy. That is not rejection, that is redirection. God is also training you to lead without control. True leadership does not manipulate outcomes. It influences through consistency and character. You no longer force results. You allow truth to unfold naturally. That patience protects your integrity. Another sign you are walking responsibly with power is your relationship with correction. You no longer resist it. You receive it, reflect on it, and adjust if necessary. Pride resists feedback. Authority learns from it. God keeps you teachable because teachability sustains favor. And finally, remember this: power does not make you invincible. It makes you accountable. Stay prayerful, stay grounded, stay honest with yourself. When you feel overwhelmed, return to God, not performance. Power is not maintained by striving. It is maintained by alignment. Chosen one, walk gently with what you carry. God entrusted you with this level because He knows you will honor it. Staying aligned with God's favor and protecting your energy. Chosen one, maintaining God's favor is not about doing more. It is about staying aligned. Many people think favor is sustained through constant effort, constant sacrifice, constant motion. That belief leads to burnout. God does not ask His chosen ones to exhaust themselves. He asks them to remain connected. Alignment begins with inner honesty. You no longer ignore what disturbs your peace. When something feels off, you pause. You pray. You reflect. You don't push forward just to appear strong. That self-awareness is protection. God guides those who are willing to listen inwardly, not just outwardly. Protecting your energy has become essential at this level. Not everyone gets access to you anymore, and that is intentional. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming selective. Conversations that drain you, environments that confuse you, and relationships that pull you out of character are no longer harmless. Power magnifies exposure. God teaches you to guard your spirit because what you carry now is valuable. One of the simplest ways to stay aligned is learning the discipline of rest. Rest is not laziness, it is obedience. God restored strength to His servants in quiet moments, not constant activity. When you rest without guilt, you honor the truth that your worth is not tied to productivity. That mindset keeps your heart soft and your spirit clear. Prayer at this stage becomes less about asking and more about communing. You don't need long, dramatic words. Sometimes alignment happens in silence. Sometimes it happens through gratitude. Sometimes it happens through surrender. God hears your heart even when your words are few. Another key to staying aligned is being mindful of what you consume mentally and emotionally. You no longer tolerate constant negativity, fear-driven content, or environments that thrive on chaos. This is not avoidance. It is discernment. What you allow in shapes how you show up in the world. God's favor is also protected through humility. Even as your confidence grows, you remain teachable. You acknowledge that you are still learning. That posture keeps pride from creeping in and keeps grace flowing. You may also notice a stronger pull toward simplicity. Less noise, less explaining, less proving. That is alignment maturing. When you no longer need to convince others, you create space for God to work through you naturally. Finally, staying aligned means trusting God when He tells you to slow down, step back, or wait. Favor is not lost in stillness. It is preserved there. Chosen one, protect your energy not out of fear, but out of wisdom. God's favor rests where peace is honored. Let me expand this, because alignment at this level is not optional. It is essential. As God's favor increases, your sensitivity increases as well. You feel things more deeply now, not just emotions, but atmospheres, intentions, and undercurrents. This is why certain places suddenly feel overwhelming and certain people feel draining without saying a word. This is not weakness. This is discernment sharpening. And discernment requires protection. One of the ways God protects you is by changing your desires. You no longer crave constant stimulation. You no longer feel fulfilled by noise, drama, or endless activity. Your soul seeks stillness because stillness is where clarity lives. Alignment is often quiet, chaos is loud, but peace whispers. You may notice that God is teaching you to check in with yourself more often. Before saying yes, before committing, before reacting. That pause is sacred. It prevents you from making decisions based on pressure instead of peace. Power responds to wisdom, not urgency. Protecting your energy also means being careful with emotional labor. You are compassionate, but you are no longer responsible for fixing everyone. God never asked you to carry burdens that are not yours. At this level, you must learn the difference between supporting and saving. Saving belongs to God. Supporting belongs to you. Confusing the two leads to exhaustion. Another layer of alignment is learning to let go of guilt. Guilt often disguises itself as responsibility. You feel guilty for resting, guilty for saying no, guilty for choosing yourself. That guilt is not from God. God brings conviction that leads to growth, not guilt that leads to depletion. Releasing guilt restores energy. God is also aligning you through truthful self-talk. You no longer speak harshly to yourself. You don't shame yourself for being human. You correct yourself with compassion. That inner dialogue matters. Alignment starts with how you treat your own mind. You may also feel guided to simplify your routines. Less rushing, more intention. Small, consistent habits that ground you. Favor is not sustained by extremes. It is sustained by rhythm. God works through rhythm because rhythm builds stability. Another important aspect of alignment is gratitude. Not forced positivity, but honest appreciation. Gratitude keeps your heart open. It reminds you of how far you've come. It anchors you in the present instead of constantly striving for the next thing. Gratitude protects you from comparison. You may find yourself pulling back from social validation. You don't post as much. You don't explain as much. You don't seek approval the way you once did. That is not withdrawal. That is internal anchoring. God is teaching you that fulfillment comes from alignment, not attention. There will also be moments when alignment requires obedient discomfort. God may ask you to wait when you want to move, to release when you want to hold on, to trust when you want certainty. Those moments test alignment. And every time you choose peace over panic, you strengthen your spiritual foundation. Protecting your energy also means honoring your emotional cycles. Some days you will feel strong. Some days you will feel quiet. Both are valid. God does not expect constant intensity. He values consistency and sincerity. And finally, alignment is sustained through trust. Trust that God sees what you don't. Trust that He is working even when you don't feel progress. Trust that rest will not delay your calling. Trust that peace is not a sign of stagnation, but a sign of stability. Chosen one, protecting your energy is not selfish. It is stewardship. God's favor flows best through vessels that are rested, grounded, and aligned. And the more you honor peace, the more clearly you will hear God's guidance. Conclusion: confirmation, blessing, and divine alignment. Chosen one, let me leave you with this truth settled deep in your spirit. You are not imagining the shift you feel. You are not becoming distant, strange, or disconnected from life. You are becoming aligned. God has been working quietly, patiently, and intentionally within you, and now the fruit of that work is beginning to show as peace, clarity, and inner authority. Your power has not increased to make you superior to others. It has increased to make you steadier, wiser, and more grounded in truth. God's favor is not loud, but it is undeniable. It rests on you because you endured, because you healed, because you chose faith, even when it would have been easier to harden your heart. That matters to God. You don't need to rush into anything. You don't need to announce your growth. Walk calmly. Stay prayerful. Protect your peace. What God has prepared for you will recognize you without effort. Doors that are meant for you will open without force, and what is not aligned will continue to fall away without regret. Remember this always: you are not late, you are not forgotten, and you are not behind. You are exactly where God needs you to be for what comes next. Trust the process, trust the silence, trust the calm. Heaven is not confused about you. Before you go, chosen one, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones who need this confirmation right now. And comment 999 in the comments as a declaration that you are aligned with God's favor, walking in wisdom, and ready for the next level He has prepared for you. Stay grounded, stay faithful. God is with you.